couple of episodes ago, right, I was talking about Amanda Seales. It was on the heels of her talking about how she appreciated her fans because without them, but then also bemoaning the fact that she wasn't really accepted, right? Or people wasn't fucking with her, or there were articles that were being written about her, right? And so, the name of it was like Amanda Seales is the poster child for Black women who lack accountability. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that only a couple of weeks later, she would be on Club Shay talking about autism, self-diagnosed, and Lexapro that she was driven to, right? I never in my wildest dreams thought that someone would take it that far to avoid accountability. Welcome to Said Nicely, and maybe this episode might be said not so nicely, right? Appreciate y'all for tapping in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow at the BLC Pod, man. We coming back with the full, fam and all that good stuff. So for right now, you kind of stuck with me with Said Nicely. But first and foremost, we got to preface all this by saying that all of this is fucking content. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's out here producing content, fake beef, real beef, whatever. People are having their opinions. That is the world that we live in, right? Even someone like me, who am I? I'm a nobody, right? But I could be on this mic in front of this camera talking to y'all. Y'all can fuck with it. Y'all can not fuck with it. Only difference between me and y'all really is I did a little bit more to y'all in terms of putting myself in a position to be in front of y'all, right? Cool. And with that comes responsibility, or with that comes people responding or not agreeing with you, right? It's the gig, I guess, right? Or it's what you kind of sign up for. So that's like where I'm coming from, like low key, right? Just on some real shit. Because when you hear people bitching and moaning or complaining or always pointing out how they're being left out, like that's not by accident, right? And that's how we got here. You know what I'm saying? At least for me, because I wasn't really paying attention to all that. Every time that I've heard of Amanda Seales is because she was complaining about how somebody did her wrong. I swear to God. You know what I'm saying? I didn't go looking for that. That wasn't part of my algorithms. You know what I'm saying? It just was what it was, right? So I did my little piece and people were responding, and it was cute because clearly people respond with their emotional ears. They don't really hear. Right? If somebody says, I don't understand why people don't like me, or something to that effect, or acts oblivious to, or does not take any accountability for, that is a lack of empathy by definition.
See, the issue with you people is that y'all don't understand what empathy is. Empathy is understanding somebody else's feelings, correct? Okay, that does not mean that you have to align with their feelings. That does not mean that you have to agree with their feelings.
Nobody said you had to agree, but if you out of your own mouth say, I don't understand a thing, that's telling me that you lack the ability to comprehend or to see things from another person's perspective, et cetera, right? Or my favorite one was, you must not like Black women. You know what I'm saying? I must not like Black women. And what was crazy was Said Nicely was designed to be kind of chill. Like, I ain't trying to go at nobody's neck, right? I ain't on nobody's platform calling other niggas a corny ass nigga type of shit. I ain't doing that. I'm having a very mild, but a thoughtful, hopefully thought-provoking critique of a situation, right? But y'all take that shit and run with it. So that tells me y'all ain't listening with y'all logical ears or like your understanding ears. Y'all are listening with y'all emotional ears. You know what I'm saying? Which is cool too. Right? But y'all literally be putting words in people's mouths that people didn't say. This has nothing to do with not liking Black women or loving Black women. Anybody who knows me, if there was a sin for me to have had, is that I love Black women too much. You know what I'm saying? Women in general, but Black women, man, you already know what it is. You know what I'm saying? To all the girls I've loved before. But that's neither here nor there. What's crazy is, right, in all sincerity, is that I rarely use this word in terms of it being dangerous. But this is not even really so much about Amanda. I'm going to use Amanda to prove the point, kind of. But what was dangerous about it was all the women in the comment sections who don't really take the time to do like any investigation and shit, right? Or all the people who have a certain level of cognitive dissonance because they resonate, with the real issues that she touches on, right? Like, it is a real issue for Black women in terms of anger and perception and navigating and people who are exceptional being misunderstood. Like, all those things are legit. But being an asshole doesn't necessarily have anything to do with that, right? There are plenty of people out here who have enough challenges without, on top of that, being an asshole. You know what I'm saying? Being someone who thinks they're superior, or being someone who feels like they can move through the world without consequences. There's certain characteristics for certain behaviors that's not really about autism. There's an otherism, right, that you can characterize certain behaviors, right? Especially when you talk about lack of empathy. And the reason why I bring up empathy is because I think when you're having a conversation with somebody, right? So let's say, for example, you're talking to Shannon. Shannon is a man in his 50s, 60s, or whatever. He comes from a different background. So while he's trying to have the conversation from his perspective, I don't think anybody here thinks that Shannon came out there with some type of motive to poo-poo on her, right? He tries to placate everybody who comes on his show. So, but he also has to try to give some feedback or some pushback, which was some of the pushback he's gotten before. So I think what he was really getting at was everything is not just about racism and sexism. It could have been an explanation in terms of the fact that grown people don't like young people cutting them the fuck off, right? Now, empathy in terms of understanding those things, right? Not just so much about what he's saying in the moment, but kind of like understanding where he's coming from, the job that he has to do, right? And the intention that he has for trying to make his platform continue to grow, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not like he didn't come out there trying to give you an opportunity to talk your talk, right? But where he found an opportunity to kind of push back a little bit, because the truth is, girl, everything is not racism and sexism. Right? Like in that particular example, it could have just simply been that older folks don't appreciate younger people trying to show them up when they're at their job, right? That shit is fucking like, you're a smart ass. Like, it's just disruptive. You know, you lend for kids who may not be as smart as you to do or move in a similar way, right? And I still have a job. I have other parents to be accountable for, right? There's a myriad of other reasons, right? But if everything is in the prism of racism, sexism, and there's no room for humanity, for people to just be themselves or to be going through the human experience, it sets the tone that like everything has to be that victim mindset for sure. This person didn't let me in. This person couldn't understand I was trying to do this. Like, if you look at all the fucking different jobs and stops and posts that she's been from The Real, right? She wasn't even included on like the little homage and shit, right? But okay, that's a different group of people. Oh, well, Issa's fucked up too, right? And the thing that bothers me a little bit about the Issa thing is because in understanding Issa's story, like Shorty really got it out of the mud low key, like transformed herself a little bit. She was not phenotypically or whatever ickly that you want to use, and she still found a way to be successful. Meanwhile, a person who has had every single opportunity, almost at every single stop in almost every single genre or media, right? Right? But then in every single step along the way, everybody was the problem. And y'all don't see a problem with that. Y'all are so caught up in the trauma bond. And when I say y'all, I'm talking about the women who just are, oh my God, a man is like, y'all on that type of time. Most of y'all don't move like her. Most of y'all move with some level of respect. Y'all move like, okay, cool. I know I got to give to get. There's some give and take. There's a yin and the yang. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a real world consequences for people who misstep. Like, we got to know better and do better and be better out here. You think I can go to whatever corporate situation, and you think you can go to every situation that you want to go into and just be what you want to be, how you want to be without consideration for other people, right? When you move through the world like that, that's what I mean by lack of empathy. Right? It's not even so much about touchy-feely and really being concerned about other people. It's about being able to understand where other people are coming from, right? And that knowledge can empower you to use that to your benefit. You know what I'm saying? But y'all want to accuse me of not knowing what empathy is really, really about, right? But I'm going to tell you where my empathy is really.
I recently was diagnosed as someone who has autism spectrum disorder, which is very difficult to identify in Black women because of racism.
So now the Class Act, baller alert, yet another Black space, because there is such a dedicated effort to degrade me and defame me. It is beyond my scope of comprehension. Wants to suggest that because my autism diagnosis did not come from a clinician, that it is not valid. What's not valid is people speaking on things that they don't know about. And my autism diagnosis is not for you all to discuss. It's not up for your debate. And anyone who is speaking on or trying to invalidate diagnosis that comes outside of a clinician is only revealing that they actually don't know anything about autism diagnosis or autism.
Fact check.
So if you go to autismspeaks.com, you'll see that there's like a whole diagnosis process, especially for adults who are being diagnosed with autism for the very first time. Like, it's not something that you could just simply do like just on your own, right? But you want to say, oh, I didn't have the $10,000 to do it.
No, I have not been clinically diagnosed by a doctor because I'm not paying $10,000 to do that. And most people will tell you that at this age, you don't need a clinical diagnosis in that sense.
If you're broke, just say that. Right? But even if you did in fact have that, right, and you didn't even take the steps, whether it's through health insurance or the $10,000 to try to like go further, because it's not even just about the diagnosis. Because if you were really searching for answers and you find something that explains something for you, right, if you wanted to change it or if you wanted to be better about it, you would go to a clinician who can come up with a plan, give you some tools or whatever to be better about it, right? But if you're not even going to get the clinical diagnosis, then how can you even get the clinical help? If you're not doing that, then can we still hold you accountable for at least that part? We say, if you know better, do better, right? But so if you're saying that you know better now, then what are you doing to do better? Or maybe you don't even think there's anything to do better about.
I don't have any desire to change those things about me.
If that's the case, then just say that. Right? We don't need the autism piece. Or are you saying that to elicit some level of sympathy, right? So that people will allow you to continue to move a certain type of way. And if that's the game, then that's a disservice to people who are really dealing with autism. That's a disservice to people who are genuinely appreciative of the light that you are casting on the whole thing. But here's the kicker though. So what I'm accusing her of is faking something for sympathy. Faking something to shield her from accountability. And I saw a clip of her when she was arguing with Jenny Ma, and she was talking about how it was low-key noble that even if Jussie Smollett or Jussie Smollett, right, was faking what he did, it was low-key noble because he would be bringing attention to a thing.
Even if it was a hoax for the sake of bringing attention to this, then I'm like, that's low-key noble.
She said that on national television because I think Jenny Ma's perspective was, you guessed it, that Jussie would still be accountable for committing a crime. Now, depending on what the punishment should be is one thing, but her argument, and by her I mean Amanda Seales, that since Emmett Till, the person who lied then, didn't suffer any con. Come on, man. It's still an argument for a lack of accountability. Accountability got to start somewhere, even if it didn't happen yesterday. At some point in time, we got to hold people accountable. If Jussie Smollett lied, he should suffer whatever penalties. We ain't saying hang the motherfucker, but come on, man. She said low-key noble.
Low-key noble.
Low-key noble, that even if he faked it, the fact that he brought attention to it, that's her saying that. Would that also be a pattern when it came to the whole Myron Rolle thing? Because she had an experience with him. Shorty said that she had like manifested the nigga on the Breakfast Club.
The one person that I actually got excited about, like, who had dropped in my DMs, I basically like manifested 2 years ago. I was like, this person is going to eventually fall into my DMs.
The nigga, boom, boom, popped up in her DMs. Come on, man, we human beings, we men out here. You ever met a woman who clearly gave you the energy that she was been manifesting you, right? Like, she just be ready to rock and roll. She saw this nigga somewhere on socials or whatever, probably liked that he was a Rhodes Scholar and an athlete. Cool, right? Dreamt the nigga up and then, boom, boom, popped up in her motherfucking DMs. Had one conversation and maybe he returned that energy and all of a sudden it was all putting.
We had a conversation. Like, within the first conversation, he's like, when are you coming to Boston? I was like, well, I'll be there February 23rd.
Well, we know he's from Boston
for
now.
my show.
We know he's from Boston.
And he was like, no, I need to see you before that. Easy, B. Real rap, old Amanda would have felt like honored by that. Old Amanda would have been like, he want to see me so quick. Like, oh my gosh. Like, you know, new Amanda with the wisdom and the security of self is like, why is a man I ain't never met before so pressed off of one conversation for me to come see him? Furthermore, did not ask about my availability. Furthermore, did not offer to pay my way. None of these things. It was just like, I need to see you. Like, what is this?
She ain't say S.A., but she hinted at it though, right? It was like, oh, he was being thirsty and all this other shit, right? You was manifesting. anyway, right? And then all of a sudden, all these other women start hitting her up and stuff.
I was telling my right-hand homegirl about it, and who works with Smart, Funny, and Black, and she was like, I think he hollered at my homegirl. She texts her homegirl, yo, you remember this dude? What's his story? Her homegirl literally replies, asshole. I'm like, more tea, please.
Hashtag
Spill
asshole?
it. No, more tea. And she said, yo, we talked a couple times on the phone, on FaceTime. She lives in New Orleans. He had to come out here for work. He said, let's get up, let's meet in person. They'd never met before. And she said that when she got to his hotel room so that they could meet to then go eat dinner, he opened the door butt-ass naked.
Because it was her duty, she had to put it out there, right? Even if maybe she embellished some of it, because there are some creeps out here. There are men who present one way and do a thing, right? It resonated with women who have had certain experiences. Like, I see a pattern, and it's really not that hard to see, right? Anytime people have criticisms about her, it's, oh my God, the world is against me. All the isms are against me, right? It can't be that, oh, you did something. But when it comes to her having criticism, she just be blah, 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 blah.
That cornball nigga who loves to make himself look like he's the white people's savior.
Blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody getting hit. Like, what are we talking about, man? You know, and y'all are like eating this shit up. That's why it's not even really about her. It's more so really about y'all. Some of y'all who in real life don't move like that, y'all don't want to be held accountable. When are we going to address the elephant in the motherfucking room? It really just boils down to the fact that low-key women, some women, have bigger egos than men. What kind of ego do you have to never believe that you're wrong, that you've done anything wrong? There's an interview, if you go look it up, she said, you know what, it might be 5% of the time where I might have been a problem, but if that was the case, man, I'm sorry, I'm gonna just keep it moving, right? Like, look this shit up, look on the Breakfast Club, right? That means 95% of the time that she's always in the right. Like, who the fuck is saying something like that? I don't think it's autism. I low-key think the ism that comes to mind is narcissism. If we're in the age where we're throwing around narcissism everywhere, right, I think it got to start with her. For you to use people's empathies and sympathies about these causes simply to like shield yourself, to allow yourself to just do what the fuck you want to do and then not have to pay any consequences, to me, is problematic. Like I said, this is not even really about Amanda. I'm really hoping to reach the other women out there who can still be saved, if I'm being honest. And let me take a moment real quick to really try to appeal to y'all, okay? There are going to be people out here who are going to use your trauma, your experiences to try to get you to rally for them, to support them. Be careful, because sometimes they're not who you think they are. Right? They're pulling at your heartstrings. There's a lot of people out here who are exceptional and are doing exceptional work, right? But they're not assholes. They're not narcissists. You know, so they're not people who are entitled. All of us have these certain traits about us, and I get that. But when it's to a certain level or a certain extreme, that's what makes that person different. And I get that. I get that we may be neurodivergent. Has she said that? Cool. But you can't be that smart and not know how to use certain words and not be able to, you know, apologize when necessary, especially if it was a misspeak. But she couldn't even do that because she couldn't even be accountable for something as small as being a misspeak, right? I saw people bending over backwards to give her grace in regards to the whole self-diagnosis thing. But the truth is, she still couldn't even admit that she was wrong there, right? People who have a superiority mindset or, you know, they will find ways. Like, that whole hubris thing was cute, but the truth is, like, it's a definition in a dictionary. So when a writer uses it in an opinionated column or whatever, then like, it's still applicable. Just because you can go back and quote, like, some of y'all be falling for the okie doke, and it is hilarious to me. Being on socials more and doing this content just makes me realize how gullible so many of you are. It breaks my heart because, you know, y'all will fall for anything, you know, and make yourself susceptible to drifters or people who want no good for you except to exploit you and use you. I mean, I get it. We're all conditioned. I'm not excluding myself. You know, when I eat at McDonald's, I know I am part of the slog that is the fucking matrix. You know what I'm saying? But at least that's McDonald's, with decades of experience and service and systems in place to sustain and maintain a business. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, Nick, what does that mean? Like, how does this relate to Amanda Seales? It relates to us all, right? Because we're in the business of ourselves. We're all like LLCs unto ourselves. We farm our time to companies all the time. Many of y'all championing Amanda Seales are making like way less than her and will do way more to maintain that job, right? And I get the aspirational side of it. But at the same time, if you look at people who are truly successful, even if they are assholes, most of them, aside from Kanye, are able to regulate themselves in different environments in order to meet their goal, their end, right? If your goal is to be an individual and say, fuck everybody else and just do what the fuck you want to do, nobody's knocking that, right? But we all understand that comes with consequences. It's called adulting. I don't even know, like, all of a sudden how we're even having some of these conversations outside the fact that I actually do, because I am empathetic. And like I said, I understand that people are dealing with real issues. I understand that, like, especially when it comes to autism and depression and the oppression that comes from sexism and racism and some of the isms, right? But my main thing is that when everything is that, it makes it hard to differentiate when it's not that. And for me, all I hear from her is the isms. And now adding the autism to me is like the biggest slap in the face. So it's cool for some of y'all to fall for that hat trick, right? But look the fucking shit up. You know what I'm saying? You don't just self-diagnose, I'm sorry. And even if you do, part of it, I'm thinking, is the journey to try to figure out how to navigate. So even when you get beyond the diagnosis, what are you doing to address it in any meaningful way? If you're not doing that, it's bullshit, yo. You know what I'm saying? The list that y'all would go to for people that you like. And so the last thing I'll say is it's funny to me how the conversation's about likability, but a lot of y'all who are defending her, you're doing so because you like her. You're doing so because you can see yourself in her. You're doing so because she's maybe hitting on certain things, experiences, you're trauma bonding that you connect with her on. So to act like likability isn't a fucking thing, nah. So you cannot like me because you don't know me, right? Cool. But don't act like that's not a fucking thing. And y'all will bend over backwards to defend people that you like, and I see through that shit. So anyways, you already know what it is. That was said not so nicely, a little departure from what we normally do, but it got to be said. Not so nicely sometimes. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, all that good shit at the BOC Pod. Until then, peace.